What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 27 of the Chat It Up podcast. As always, I'm your host, Shooter, bringing you news, reviews, and interviews about all things Upper Peninsula. If this is your first time listening into the podcast, make sure you go back, check out all of the prior episodes because there's some really great chats there. If you're a return listener, as I say every single week, thank you for sticking with me. I have a really great episode for you guys this week, as always, and I'm going to do some Youper news, this day in Youper history, and then we'll get into this week's interview. So let's just jump right into things here with Youper news. And my first piece of Youper news is a big, huge shout-out to the Escanaba girls softball team. Back on June 15th here, they took home their second consecutive state title. It's hard enough to win one state title, let alone to win back-to-back. That's nothing short of amazing. So a huge tip of the cap to their players, coaches, and fans on an unbelievable accomplishment. My second piece of Youper news is there's a really cool fundraiser coming up for the new Steve Mariucci Beacon House in Marquette. Now, if you're unaware of what the Beacon House is, it's a place in Marquette for families to stay when they have a loved one in the hospital up there in Marquette, which can be a huge help during, very tough times. And so this fundraiser that they're doing involves Captain Keith Colburn from the hit show Deadliest Catch. I believe that's on the Discovery Channel. It's going to be a 3-day event over June 28th, 29th, and 30th. And I know that Captain Keith has been up to the UP quite a few times for the Beacon House Golf Classic, but they're going to kind of switch it up this year. There's going to be a big fishing event where you can go out with Captain Keith out to Standard Rock on Lake Superior and do some fishing. There's an after party that'll be catered by Elizabeth's Chop House at the Lake Superior Yacht Yard. I know that obviously Captain Keith will be in attendance, so will Steve Mariucci and former NFL kicker Jay Feely. They're also doing an 18-hole golf scramble with a barbecue afterwards, and all of the proceeds from these events go towards the Beacon House's capital campaign, and I believe they're also going to be dedicating one of the rooms at the Beacon House to Captain Keith. So really cool fundraiser for a really great cause. So if you're interested at all, or if you're looking, to find out about this event, just go to upbeaconhouse.org. Again, that's upbeaconhouse.org. Okay, it's time for This Day in Youper History, brought to you by the good folks over at pasty.com and the Pasty Central Facebook page. Again, that's pasty.com. So here is This Day in Youper History, June 24th.
Pasty Central Day in History, June 24th. Grover Cleveland died on this day in 1908. The only U.S. president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, Grover Cleveland has some interesting connections with Michigan and the Upper Peninsula. First, he was born in 1837, the same year Michigan was granted statehood. He was first elected the 22nd president in 1885 at the peak of the copper boom. Cleveland lost his bid for re-election, but ran again 4 years later and served as the 24th president from 1893 to 1897. Finally, Grover Cleveland had a famous cousin who spent some time in Eagle River, Michigan, at the old Phoenix Hotel. That famous cousin, James A. Garfield, the 20th president of the United States. Pasty Central Day in History, June 24th.
All right, thank you again to the pasty.com and the Pasty Central Facebook page for This Day in Youper History. It's time to get to this week's interview, and it is with my friend Chad Susott. Chad and I go way back. He was just a year older than me in school, so we've known each other since we were kids. And he's had some pretty cool experiences, namely as Michigan State's mascot, Sparty. And he's also been doing some really awesome things here on the home front with the Dickinson Trail Network. So we'll just kind of jump right into this interview here. So without further ado, let's chat it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first episode being recorded here in my new digs in Iron Mountain. So I'm here with my friend Chad Susott. Chad, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is great, and I'm honored to be your first interview in the new studio.
Yeah, new studio / bar / family room. I mean, it's
nice. It's the man cave, multi-purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got the VIP access.
You did
preview before the housewarming party.
The VIP tour. So you're a born and raised Youper from here in Iron Mountain.
That's right.
When you think of growing up here in Iron Mountain, what memories come to mind for you?
I have very fond memories of Friday Night Lights, Flavor Football. We share that bond.
We do.
I grew up over by Pine Mountain. We had lots of natural outdoor activities, playing in the yards. Really just having that freedom to, explore the wilderness. And they always say you can stay out until the street lights come on.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
We would explore Pine Mountain. We'd go all the way back to Menominee River, all those different areas. So really,
perfect.
Really nature and just the local community. I grew up loving it.
See, a lot of times I ask people questions already kind of knowing what the answer is going to be,
Yeah.
but I have to pretend like I don't. And so I knew that you were probably going to mention kind of exploring in the woods and that type of thing, which will kind of play into later on in our conversation.
Sure.
And you also mentioned, Kingsford High School and the Friday Night Lights. That's kind of, like you said, we share that bond. That's one of the things that I remember most about kind of my time growing up here is a lot of that stuff centered around football. And I remember at the time, I think you had a pretty big beard on you.
Oh, yeah. I had the playoff goatee.
Yeah.
And the reason it got so big is I would not shave it until we lost.
Yep.
And we never lost until
No.
we got all the way to the playoffs. So it got pretty ridiculous.
It did. So how do you feel then about Hof retiring and now Navarre taking over? I mean, it's a pretty big transition. I mean, all we've ever known is Hofer Flavor Football.
It is the end of an era, and I couldn't be more proud of Coach Hofer. I saw him recently at a graduation party, and he was the first person I wanted to talk to. I saw him. I recognized the limp from across the room. Hofer's kind of
his gait,
walking
yeah.
his gait, and I was just like, I know that gait, and I was trying to chase him down. I have the same limp now, I think.
Maybe that's just kind of comes with old age.
Right,
maybe it's
the knees are starting to go
yeah,
out.
it must be like the former football player's gait.
So it is amazing that he has made such a positive influence on so many young men's lives, young students in general. Similar to your father. I mean, there's
Right.
a lot of parallels there.
For sure.
So I just wanted to go up and kind of shoot the breeze with them. And
Sure.
I made sure to just say congratulations on the UP Hall of Fame.
Yeah, yeah.
The positive impact he had in my formative years.
Sure, absolutely.
It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I had actually bumped into him at the golf course, believe it or not, over at Timberstone. He was there.
I was at Pine Grove, so
Yeah.
maybe he just hangs out at golf courses.
That's it.
now.
That's what you do when you get retired, I guess. But okay, so when you finish up high school, you were a year older than me. So you finish
Right.
up in 03,
Right.
and you head off to Michigan State.
That's correct.
Was that your first choice of school, or how did that all come together?
Absolutely. That was it was kind of those formative years. They won the national championship in 2000. One of my best friends, Paul Izzo, Brent Falks as well. Izzo, the obvious connection there.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to Michigan State. Brent Falks had family going there as well. It's in state. It's a good school. I'm a fan. So yeah, I applied. That's where I wanted to go. Also applied to Michigan.
A backup school, totally a backup school.
Totally the backup school of Michigan, and you get accepted there, and you're kind of like, yeah, I just wanted to do that so people wouldn't make fun of me saying, oh, Michigan State's the backup. I'm like, no,
Right.
totally vice versa.
So, as much as I would love to kind of sit here and talk about your schooling and all of the learning that you did at Michigan
absolutely.
State.
I could go by course by course if
I'm
you
sure.
wanted.
What I'm really most interested in about your time at Michigan State is the fact that you ended up being Sparty, the Michigan State mascot. You need to walk me through how this came to be.
Okay, so I'll back it up to high school again, because in high school, smaller high school, we're playing sports. Everybody knows your name. You get to know everybody. You're influential in that school. You're looked up to. When you go to a school as big as Michigan State, it's kind of a culture shock. Instead of Chad Susott or your name or Scotty Redinger, I became A235779. I mean,
Right.
I was a number.
Right.
So I really wanted to look at a way to make an impact, make a name for myself. And it happened my sophomore year. It's always about a girl, right? So there was
A lot of stories are.
a member of the MSU dance team, and kind of had a crush on her in class, and she invited me to one of her parties, and it was all dance team and cheerleaders, and she introduced me to some Sparties there, and everybody kind of agree. I had kind of that knack, the social knack for it, the sense of humor, the spontaneity, and they encouraged me to try out, and that's kind of how I was introduced to it. I had never thought about it before that, but then I started studying Sparty and looking at different possibilities. She ended up helping me with my tryout, and I ended up getting it, and it became one of those formative things, like a transformation,
Sure.
a defining moment in your college career.
Yeah.
And from somebody who's a sports fanatic, and you can understand that, and somebody that played sports, it is a dream. You get to travel with the team.
Sure.
You get front row seats to all the sporting events.
Yeah.
You get to know all the athletes. You get to know, I mean, of course, the cheer dance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all inclusive. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
I can't even begin to wrap my head around that. But so when you mention this tryout, is it like a group of people you have to try out in front of, or like what goes into that tryout kind of process? I mean, it's got to be pretty intense.
It is intense. In any given year, you can have a couple slots that are open.
Okay.
And I would say it's usually about probably a 5-to-1 to 10-to-1 ratio of people trying out and who's going to get it.
Okay.
And that's after you get through multiple steps.
Sure.
First, you have to be 5'10" to 6'2". You got to fit in the suit. You got to
Yeah.
look good in the suit. Then you have to come up with a skit. It's about a 2-minute skit that you perform.
Yeah.
You've never been in this massive, bulky suit before.
Right.
And you go in front of a test audience of about 20 people or so. And they hit you with all sorts of just random things, and they test your improv skills, and they test your comedic timing. They'll hit you with situations that you have no idea what's coming. And then they'll have you go up to a table that'll have 50 of the most random items ever. And they're like, pick up one of these items and use it for a purpose that it's not intended for. So you kind of have to be creative with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then they're like, now pick up 3 items, use them all together, create a skit in your mind in front of this audience of 20 people. It was the most unique and terrifying experience ever. And then when you're all done with that, then they're like, okay, now you get to perform your skit that you came up with.
Yeah.
So I had help with that. I had help with the choreography, obviously, and the music and what they were
Right.
looking for. And yeah, I crushed it. I think, at least.
Well, I mean, you got the job, so you did something right.
I did. And then the interview was after that, and the rest is history. I could not have been more excited. That was the end of my sophomore year.
So is there like a couple of people that are a Sparty at a time, so that there's like a rotation, or is there just one person that's Sparty? Like how does that work as far as like going to games or making appearances?
So we always say it's kind of a trade secret, and there's only one Sparty. We try to keep that mystique up there.
Then you can keep that if you want.
I'll fill it in. I'll fill it in for you. Just logistically, there are events all over campus, all over the state, all over the nation, and it would be somewhat logistically impossible for one person to do it. So we do have a squad, and the reason I bring that up is that group is so tight knit, and we are best friends to this day. We stand in each other's weddings, and it really gets down to that small group dynamic. And later on, I'll talk about leadership and squad cohesion, and how we were able to eventually win a national championship my senior year in 2007.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you about because there's like mascot competitions, right? Like,
absolutely, and they're highly competitive.
Okay, so kind of what goes into those competitions? Because again, and this is like, I know it exists, but that whole process and what that world is completely new to me. So
sure, so it's put on by the Universal Cheer Association. They're the biggest college, high school cheer group nationwide. If you see any of the movies, Bring It On, anything, they're the group that's in that, and they probably produce those movies.
Sure.
So the first half of your score is a composite score for your entire year. You have to videotape every single event you do, every funny thing you do, and you condense it down into 2 minutes.
Wow.
And they watch that video, and they give you a composite score, and that's half your score.
Okay.
They take the top 10, and you're invited down to Orlando, and it is the most amazing event ever. I mean, it's the national cheer dance. It's at Disney World. Think like Cheer Camp, the movie about Cheer Camp.
Yeah.
We did that as well, but this is even better because you're in Disney World as a college student.
Yeah.
And the second half of your score is a 2-minute skit.
Okay.
In Disney World, up on a stage in front of probably 500 people.
Wow. Okay.
So those are available on YouTube if you're interested in that. I'm pretty proud of our skit we had my senior year.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you said you guys ended up winning technically the national championship then,
in
right?
mascotting.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. So, what were some of the other highlights for you as your time as Sparty? I mean, what are some of the big moments that kind of stick out for you? Big games or people you've got to meet or come across? I mean, there's got to be a lot, but
so of course, Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo is one of my absolute heroes. Besides being a hometown hero here, we couldn't be prouder of him as an Iron Mountain native, as a Youper. And he's one of those people that no matter who he meets, especially if you're a Youper, you are family. And the way he's able to connect with you and really make you feel important, that's one of my favorite memories, is all of my interactions with Coach Izzo.
Sure.
And of course, Magic Johnson, that's another just dream of mine to meet him. Not only that, but to hang out with him on the court, shoot baskets with him.
Oh,
I had
man.
Magic Johnson rebounding, and as Sparty with those big old four-finger foam hands, I got my hand out in front of me, and no way in heck I ever thought I was going to make it, but I swished a three-pointer. Magic Johnson shagged the rebound and kicked it back out to me.
Wow.
And you know what? I'm like, I couldn't do it again.
No.
I just took it. I was just like, nope, I'm done. And I brushed off my shoulders and popped my jersey and walked away because I knew it wasn't going to happen again.
Oh, man, that's incredible.
And I kind of made it look like, nope, I beat you. Goodbye. You're not getting your redemption. To Magic Johnson.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then when 300 came out, Gerard Butler came.
Yeah.
And he went out on center field and did that, Spartans,
Yeah.
what is your profession? And the goosebumps, I'm getting them right now, hearing 70,000 plus Spartans do the hoo.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. They do that to this day, and it's been, 10, 12
Right?
years now.
Yeah, they're still going with it.
It's a tradition.
It is. It has become a tradition. So, was there any real kind of like downside to being Sparty? I mean, obviously you're really busy. I'm sure you get kind of pressed for time. But, I mean, is there... I mean, obviously it can't all be fun and games.
It is very demanding. I would say it's as close to a full-time job as a full-time college student can get. Mm-hmm. There is stressful times. You do have to balance your work life, your student life, your studying, your personal life. The anonymity clause is very strict.
Sure.
So you have some friends that think you're kind of a flake at some time.
Sure.
Because they're like, man, we never see you at games anymore. Are you just like not a fan anymore?
Sure.
And you're like, dude, you have no idea. Yeah, you went up to that mascot and said hi to him. Oh, man. Oh, you met Sparty. They'll come up to you and be like, dude, I met Sparty. It was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
You weren't even there. You should have been there. I was like, yeah, I kind of was. But
right.
So that's kind of a downer.
What would you say was the biggest game that you got to attend as Sparty, like right down near the action?
Wow. I got to narrow it down to one. We ended up not winning this game, but Notre Dame was always just chaos.
Okay.
And it was the third quarter, just absolute monsoon. And just the intensity of the crowd was insane. Now, you have to realize I was there during the John L. Smith years.
Sure.
So I was there live when he slapped himself. So it was more of a comedy of errors than really pump up awesome games that we won. But the largest comeback in NCAA history for football was at Northwestern. I think we were trailing 35-3 or something along those lines. And our squad kind of looked at each other and like, man, who wants to get in costume? This is just a slaughter. It's depressing. I'm like, I'll do it. I mean, I'll take every chance I can get to get in the suit and go out there and mess with people.
Right.
Oh, my God. Because the Northwestern fans, it was at Northwestern, they were talking so much trash. And then it was just touchdown, 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 touchdown. And I was absolutely loving it. I was in their face. I was in the crowd's face, and they just were like in shock. And we ended up winning that game. So
awesome.
That's a good one.
So obviously, with a lot of the success that the teams have, then I mean, you kind of have success as well. Would you say? I mean,
absolutely, and I'll tell you why. Once you're a Sparty, you're always a Sparty, and you live vicariously, and you help out those students every chance you get. So I went to dental school in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. So what happened in Indianapolis between 2008 and 2012? Final Four, Sweet 16, just kicking absolute butt, all in Indianapolis. And who was kind of the upperclassmen who would host the Sparties and the current cheerleaders, current dance team?
Yeah.
Oh, I enjoyed every single second of that. And Indianapolis is not too far from East Lansing.
It's really not. I mean,
so I came back for the D'Antonio trick plays.
Okay.
The Little Giants, Rocket, all of those things. I was there live for those.
Yeah.
And then you think of the Big Ten championship games for football. Those were in Indianapolis. The Big Ten tournaments, those were in Indianapolis. So I actually got to see. I mean, that was my heyday, when I was in Indianapolis, as far as being a Michigan State fan. I became absolutely rabid about it, and I would have sold my plasma if I could go to different places. I probably my poorest part financially in my life. We went out to the Rose Bowl, and I got to see my Spartans win the Rose Bowl, and that was probably one of the best moments. Beating Stanford.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, it ended up working out great for you that you chose Indiana.
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess let me kind of rephrase that. Aside from obviously hindsight being 2020, what made you choose to go to Indiana because really you could kind of go to dental school wherever you want, right? I mean, you could, if I'm understanding it correctly, you could kind of pick where you want to go.
You can absolutely pick where you want to go. My family we're all from Indiana. The Susotts are from Indiana.
Okay.
So I was a legacy there. When I applied, they were the first school to say, hey, we want you. And I went there and interviewed, and they were like recruiting me. And that felt great. I also went to Marquette down in Milwaukee, and I went to U of M.
Okay.
The feeling I got at U of M, surprisingly, was I don't know. I didn't feel welcome. I felt like they had that attitude like, you'd be lucky to come here, or you'd be lucky to get in here, and we're prestigious and everything. And I got waitlisted at Michigan. And I didn't really understand it. I felt like I was highly qualified. I felt like the interview and everything went well. I had all the numbers for it. And when it came time there was a hard stop date with Indiana, and they deserved an answer from me.
Sure.
So I made a decision right there, withdrew my application from Michigan.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now, you kind of briefly mentioned as far as like being a legacy and such. So was your choice as far as like following a career path in like dentistry, would you say kind of a lot of that was because of, being around it, like growing up what?
Great question. I always knew I wanted to be in the healthcare field.
Okay.
I was either going to be a MD or a DDS, or a physician or a dentist.
Yeah.
And some of my role models growing up, of course, my dad's urologist. Dr. Alan Falks was one of my, very formative mentors growing up, and he's an orthodontist.
Yep.
I come from, all my aunts and uncles are all MDs or DDSs.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was kind of that pathway. And they all encouraged me to look at different passions, different professions. But
sure.
I always knew deep down that's what I was going to do.
Okay.
So you got to think of the political landscape as we were getting ready to graduate in 2007, 2008. Universal health care, Obamacare, all those things were coming up. There was a lot of uncertainty in the medical field. And I went and talked to... My sister was in medical school at that time, so I talked to her, and I talked to her friends, and I talked to dental students, and I talked to family, and I just got that feeling. You get pulled in certain directions or feelings one way or the other, and dentistry felt like the right way to go, and I am so glad I did it. It fits my skill set and my personality to a T.
Awesome. It's always interesting to like hear people explain like how they've kind of you find your way or your path, because it's so different for everybody, but eventually everybody kind of gets there one way or another.
Sure.
And you kind of mentioned as we're talking about like finding that path, as far as coming back to Iron Mountain, was it like always a part of your plan, or did you just kind of find out about an opening and you thought, why not? I mean, how did all of that come together as far as coming back to our hometown?
So I had pretty much everywhere in the nation as an opening.
Yeah, I mean...
But, really, you really could go anywhere. And a lot of that could be dependent on, significant others, if you were to find that special person and where they want to go. So you have to consider those things. But it really came down to priorities. What did I miss? I found out that I am not a city guy. I don't like traffic. I don't like paying for parking. I don't like noise, sirens, all those types of things. So when I was in Indianapolis, I found myself constantly trying to find the best fishing spot, the best hunting spot. I found myself at retention ponds right next to an apartment complex, surface fishing for bass. Now,
sure. Don't
get me wrong. If you're in Indianapolis, find a retention pond. You're going to hit some big old bass. And those are some of my favorite memories.
Right.
We had we jokingly called it the Indiana School of Dentistry fishing team, and we still fish all over the country now.
That's hilarious.
That's kind of a tangent, but
yeah.
And then as far as hunting, man, you had to pay for it, and they put you on this little square of land, and you had to stay in your little plot, and you could see other dudes hunting too.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And I'm like, man, I miss the UP, absolutely. And you'd come home, and your blood pressure would just drop.
Yes.
You knew you were home. You knew you were in God's country. So the UP was always home, and really a decision was made in that regard.
Okay. So now you're back here, you're working at the VA. I assume it's got to be pretty rewarding to be able to work with our veterans.
Absolutely. I am absolutely blessed to have a job that I enjoy what I do. I love my clientele. They're Yoopers. They're salt of the earth. There's a ton of respect and an honor to serve our veteran population. It's a type of dentistry that it's pure. You don't have to sell anything. Everything's paid for. You can, they need this essential care. They need this help. And there's no short selling them, being like, oh, can you afford this? Can't you afford this? No, you do what's right. And yeah, it's like I call it pure dentistry.
Sure.
The decision process is, there's no ethical dilemmas. And you feel good about everything you do. And all of my patients, all my veterans, we have great rapport. And I thank them for coming in, and they say, no, thank you for helping us.
Sure.
And you just feel good every day when you leave.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, you can't really ask for much more in a job, really.
Nope.
How long have you been at the VA, actually?
7 years.
7 years now? Okay.
And I took over as chief of dentistry 5 years ago.
Okay, nice.
Yep. So
let's switch gears, and I say that pun intended, because I want to talk to you about the Dickinson Trail Network.
Well, absolutely.
So for those listening in that are completely unaware, what is the Dickinson Trail Network, or the DTN as well?
So I have a perfect blurb for you here. I'll recite our mission.
Okay.
So the Dickinson Trail Network used to be the Dickinson County Bike Path.
Okay.
We are a 501c3 nonprofit group of dedicated volunteers whose mission it is to build, maintain, and promote non-motorized trails throughout Dickinson County and the surrounding area.
Awesome. So how did this, you mentioned that it was the Dickinson Bike Path originally, so when did all of this kind of start coming about? I mean, I know technically the DTN was founded in March of 2019, I think.
That's correct.
But it's been alive longer than that, right?
So Dickinson County Bike Path, it's been over 10 years. I'd say it's around 12 years. It's a group that was a grassroots campaign created by Bob Werner, kind of staple in the community.
Sure.
Well known. He and a group of friends put it together, and what they wanted was designated bike paths. And now this is on paved roads. They wanted signage. They wanted awareness to motorists that, hey, these are designated places where we want to ride our bikes on the road.
Gotcha.
They did fundraising. They were able to pave additional footage on the side of the shoulder to make it a little bit safer. A big turning point is when they took over the Tour de Dickinson from Dickinson County Hospital.
Okay.
It used to be their race. They took it over, and really it kind of exploded. They combined it with Italian Fest.
Yep.
And it's been a great event, a great community event, and an excellent fundraiser for them. So
I guess how exactly did you end up getting involved with this group then? I mean, how did that come to be?
So Bob Werner has he's been recruiting me for a couple years, but I'm not a road biker. And what really caught my attention was when it switched gears. Oh, pun intended again. Mike Greneveld, they rebranded it as Dickinson Trail Network. And at the time, I didn't know it was the Dickinson County Bike Path.
Okay.
And he framed it as, hey, we see you out mountain biking all the time. We see you at Fiume. Come and join our meetings. And I did. And I always knew, and we had been talking about this, my best friend, Brent Falks, we were talking about the lack of non-motorized trails, bike paths, walking paths, hiking paths. Because as you know, you lived in Marquette, went to school in that area. You've been up to Houghton, Copper Harbor. They have incredible trail networks, and I was craving that. I wanted places to get off the road, get back into nature, get back to my roots as a kid that we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I joined those groups and we had a couple meetings out at the Boss headquarters, I was absolutely inspired, and I was like 100% sold. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to help out this group and make this a success.
Sure. Now, is this kind of like for the DTN, is it like a lead by committee type of thing, or is there like one guy calling the shots, or like how is that whole thing set
So
up?
There's officers. You have your president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and then there's a board of directors up to 9.
Okay.
So everything is kind of group decision within that think tank, within that board.
Sure. Now, I know as of recently, you guys have been making really big kind of gains or momentum. up on top of Millie Hill. I know before we get to that, I should say, you guys had done some work down in Norway, right? Am I correct on that?
That's correct. So Mike Greneville, he really did that launch. He inspired a lot of people and really transformed it. Through personal reasons, he had to step down as president. So we kind of had a lull there. A group of us got together, all of us that were at the meeting, and we were like, you know what? Let's not let this go away. We met at Soul Blue, had just a ragtag group around drinking a couple beers, and we're like, we need to pick this up. We need to run with it. And that's kind of what happened. I emerged as a voice of reason, possibly some leadership.
Sure.
I never intended that to be the outcome of it. But they all kind of looked at me and they're like, hey, we trust you to do this. Can you represent us? I'm like, yeah, I'll go to the next meeting and kind of feel out what's left of DTN.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we were all on the same page. And I'm like, you know what, guys? The vision is still there. The spark is still there. So Steve Weil and Jason Morgan, they're out in Norway. They already had those trails started from the year before. They started at Marion Park. They worked with the city of Norway and Norway schools, and they went through a school forest there.
Cool.
So then Nate Allwine, he's the owner of True North Outpost.
Yep.
He had a 40 there, which just had that incredible outlook and the drop through there.
Yep.
So he's like, hey, this is in everybody's best interest. Have a connector go through there. So that's when I came on, and I knew nothing about trail building.
Okay.
I started out, I was just like, what's that tool called? And they're like, oh, it's called the McLeod. I'm like, how do you use it? And they showed me, and I'm like, cool. I'm like, hey, I'm going to bring my GoPro out here, and I'm going to start, I really don't even know how to edit video. I mean, for Sparty, obviously, for that highlight video, I had done it before. But new program, I bought a new GoPro. I got a gimbal for it. I loved how the video looked. I put it to music, and wow, it kind of blew up from there. We started getting to social media.
Yeah.
A lot of response, a lot of positive traction with those videos and our pictures. Yep.
So you mentioned kind of in Norway they were working, there was a lot of collaboration between the city and the school because of it was going through the school forest. I assume obviously with getting things going here up on Millie Hill, there's got to be a lot of collaboration with the city of Iron Mountain to make that happen. So really, when we were discussing and hashing out back to this core group of guys that love mountain biking, I said, they're like, hey, where should our trails be? I turned and just pointed. I'm like, Millie Hill, it's right there. It is a plethora of potential, just crazy terrain. The gradient's perfect. The trees are gorgeous. The outlook, the elevation, and it's right in the heart of downtown Iron Mountain, which is important to me. It's important to the Downtown Development Association. It's important to the businesses. We're bringing people to the heart of Iron Mountain, which has been a challenge. There's committees that are formed just for that purpose. Right.
So we're going to create something that's minimal investment, and we're hoping to pull the community there, pull tourism there, increase foot traffic, increase commerce to that area. And the proposal kind of wrote itself. It was a rainy Sunday. The city council meeting was the next day. I knocked out that proposal, got a GIS map, drew some paths on there. Before that, we had talked to Jordan. We had put some flags out. He was all on board. So Jordan Stankina is the city manager. I showed up to the city council meeting just hoping to float the idea around to the city council and engage response. And I saw a lot of nodding heads. I saw a lot of smiling faces. I was like, wow. And they're like, this is great. This proposal looks awesome. We like everything you said about it, and we're going to vote on it next time. I was like,
score. Yeah.
What? So 2 weeks later, it was a unanimous vote, and we were off and running. We had to iron out some details, and we were building a couple days after that.
So are you guys strictly building by hand? Do you have any machinery up there, or is it?
We have almost no machinery up there. We have weed whackers, But hey, the way I like it is my joke is the best trails are homemade.
Okay, yeah.
Just like your mama used to make. So he's got that yo mama joke in there.
There you go. Yeah, that works.
So I like that our original project is artisan. It's hand built.
Yeah.
It's like the old wooden roller coaster. Because as we grow and expand, we will get machinery. We will get better at designing. They're going to be smoother. They're going to be the high-speed steel roller coasters. But what's going to be near and dear to our heart is our original project, that Lower Millie Hill that we're working on now.
Absolutely. Now, I love the collaboration that you're talking about between the city and everybody being gung-ho, at least on the city council, to kind of put this into motion, because obviously this is a very traditional town and everybody's very like set in their ways. So obviously I'm sure you've come across your fair share of naysayers along the way.
Now, you know what's funny? It was almost destiny that I took this over. So I'm second generation up here, but we do have some name recognition, especially with the older crowd.
Sure.
Also, working at the VA, my clientele are 50, 60, 70, older generation. So I really have a chance to connect with them, and I know a lot of them. A lot of them are veterans. But really, that demographic, I'm able to connect with them on a personal level and speak their language and kind of know what their concerns might be, and to steer those ahead of time and really get everybody on board.
Sure.
So it's kind of a talent.
Yeah, I mean, that you definitely have a unique angle or perspective on that, because I just from seeing stuff on social media, you get the people of, oh, well, this is the way we've always done things, so why should we change it? And they're just so set in their ways, and they can't see the vision that you guys obviously have. So that you're definitely, like you said, you're poised to be in a good spot to kind of field all of that. Because...
Right, and if you look at those comments, I'm kind of proud of the fact that I'm able to steer them a 180 from negative to positive in one comment.
Yeah,
that's my goal.
Absolutely. So at this point, I mean, you guys have really kind of just really got started recently with the trail building and stuff. Have you set any sort of a like completion date or a time that you're shooting to kind of have this finished by?
So I did, and it was really just spitballing. I'm like, hey, let's give ourselves a month per trail to get it done. That's a nice, comfortable, and we'll get done just before hunting season, which obviously is a pivotal thing for Yoopers.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be working into hunting season.
Yeah.
So I set that for October 31st, and we are going to, knock on wood, we are going to absolutely bust that in half probably.
Wow.
We have a lot of excitement, a lot of volunteers. We have our core group of people, but then one day we had 15 guys. We had guys up there that didn't really have shovels. They're just gloves on. They're digging with their hands.
Sure, yeah. You just want to be there to help out. So, you had kind of mentioned earlier about, Marquette and the Copper Country. They have these awesome trail systems and stuff, and they're established up there with the NTN and Ramba and all of that. Have you guys kind of reached out to them for any advice or collaboration or kind of help to kind of make any of this stuff a reality?
We have. So I just reached out to UP Mountain Biking Group. I reached out to NTN and Ramba. I haven't heard back from NTN and Ramba yet, but I have a connection up in Copper Harbor.
Okay.
I ski a lot, and one of their head guys is kind of he lives right next to Mount Bohemia.
Sure.
And he was a bartender there, and just me being me, serendipitously kind of struck up a conversation with them 6 months ago, and kind of made an acquaintance with him.
Okay.
And he was how I touch base, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, give me a rundown for a fledgling group. What do we need? What do we need to do? So he provided kind of a framework for that.
That's really cool. And I'm hoping then that the NTN or Ramba kind of get with you, because, I mean, obviously, if one group wins, everybody wins. And how cool to have, like, a three-headed monster, so to speak, of
absolutely.
Like Dickinson County, Marquette County, Houghton County, or where, Keweenaw County up there.
You get that synergistic effect where if they're on their way up here, we are just another stop for them, another attractive location, and they can run that circuit. And I think we can all help each other.
Yeah, I think of it makes me think of the golf promotion, the perfect foursome, where it's like
absolutely,
where it's like Gray Walls, Timberstone, Sweetgrass, and you. Well, you could, it's like the same thing. It could be for biking, where it's like, Copper Country, Marquette, Dickinson County, and you. Like,
right. Let's get them in the UP. Let's get them in the region.
Yeah.
The more options they have, I think the better for everybody.
I would agree with you completely. So you've got your project up on Millie Hill. That's kind of where your bread and butter right now, or where
that's your flagship.
Yeah, that's your flagship. Are there any ideas for like expansion, or like where do you kind of see things heading with this once you finish the trails there?
I'm glad you asked. So I don't know if we'll tackle anything else this fiscal year. That'd be pretty ambitious, but it's not out of the question. So Millie Hill Phase 2 is if you go up East B Street and where the water tower and the antennas, the city owns that land. That's 120 acres of untouched real estate.
Okay.
That we can put miles of trails in there.
Sure.
And then the Forget family, probably known from the Little League team, Bob's Mobile Homes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Bob Forget.
Yeah.
They donated land to the city of Iron Mountain. So that's potentially hundreds more acres.
Wow.
And also they're very open to recreational use.
Sure.
So that's going to be, I'm going to say that's the main course. And then what we're working on right now is going to be the dessert.
Okay.
And it's just incredible. So we will need mini excavators because we're going to be cutting miles of trail.
Sure.
It's going to be incredible.
Sure. Well, that's exciting. I'll be patiently waiting to kind of see what you guys kind of come up with. Now, you had mentioned you've had a really good kind of a response as far as volunteers and such, but if anybody out there's listening and is interested in getting involved or wants to be a part of the DTN, how do they make that happen?
So the best way to contact us, the site that I run is on Facebook. It's Dickinson Trail Network on Facebook. You'll be able to see our logo there. I post updates probably daily, either photos, videos, volunteer updates. Our website is dtntrails.org.
Okay.
That one's not updated at least yet, but that'll be our next social media outreach.
Sure. Okay. So is there anything else that I didn't touch on that you would maybe want to mention? Because we've hit all mine.
Oh yeah, we crushed it.
I really think we did crush it. So
I think you'll like this tidbit.
Okay.
So the trail building guru in the Upper Peninsula is up in Copper Harbor. That's where he calls home, and he is the brainchild for all Copper Harbor trails. Now, get this, and I'm not making this up, and he might listen to this and he'll laugh, but his name is Aaron Rodgers.
No way.
No, I'm not making that up, and kind of reminds me of Michael Bolton from Office Space. Yeah, it was a cool name for a trail builder.
Right, yeah.
Now everybody thinks I'm a quarterback. So anyway, what we would like to do, and this is a great idea posed by Kyle Lindstrom. We would love to have his company. They're known as Rock Solid. We would pay for a consultation. They would come down. They would evaluate our trails. They'd give us feedback on it. They would guide us on future projects.
Sure.
That would be a service that I would love to offer for our members. We will be offering membership in the near future.
Sure.
And you could get continuing education. You could get trail building courses included in that. And even if we could get sponsorship for that, I would love to have one of those a month, because knowledge is power. And if we can get those guys down here and offer that trail building seminar to our group and also improve our trails at the same time, that would be absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, especially on the front of knowledge being power. I mean, the more the trail network grows and gets better, the more people it's going to bring here. The more people it's going to bring here, the better everybody does. The the microbrewery, 51st State, or the restaurants or the shops. I mean, you name it, the trickle-down effect is just huge.
Absolutely. And even in my interviews, I talk about loyal to local. And whenever anybody asks me about bike rentals or new shops, our friends from high school are opening a new bike shop.
Shout out to Amy Cavalieri.
UP Sport and Spoke. I give them a shout out every time the topic comes up. We're looking forward to partnerships with them. Oh, you're going to like this. The Pistol Fitness CrossFit guys.
Okay.
I just had a brilliant idea, and actually this idea was sparked by them as well. We were just commenting how great of a workout it is, building trails, lifting rocks, hauling buckets of dirt.
Yeah.
So I'm going to challenge them, and you'll probably see an announcement next week. I'm going to challenge the CrossFitters to come out, do a workout of the day, hauling rocks for me, and they're gonna rock armor our berms, and they're gonna haul buckets of dirt. We're gonna see how tough they are.
There you go. I like that. More collaboration. I think that's awesome,
and it's fun. That's the main thing.
Right.
We keep everything fun.
It is. Yeah, that's for sure a win-win. So,
no.
All right. Well, I don't know if you've ever listened to the podcast before, but if you have, you'll know what my final question always is, and that is, how do you like your pasty?
Wow. I like it with, obviously.
With?
I like it a little bit crispy, and you got to put ketchup on it.
Ketchup? Okay, you're a ketchup guy.
And a little bit of hot sauce on there.
Oh, okay. You like some hot sauce?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It can be sriracha, or it could be Cholula. I don't know. I just like a little bit in there.
A little bit of zip?
Yeah, and then my girlfriend kind of tainted me with ranch. She puts ranch on hers.
Whoa, that's the first I've heard ranch.
Fat kid ketchup. So I'll dip my fork in her. I'll eat a little bit.
Okay.
But you got to think potatoes and meat and everything with ranch. Ranch goes with everything.
Ranch does go with everything, but that's the first anybody has ever said ranch, and this is, I think, going to be episode 27.
Oh, man.
So of 27 people I've talked to.
I just tainted our entire conversation by bringing that up. No, well, I'm a ketchup guy. I'm not gravy. At least I don't say gravy for anything.
Well, and gravy actually is not bad. I prefer ketchup, but gravy's good.
Oh, and you got to have a dill pickle.
Okay, you like dill pickle?
Yep.
On the side?
So Bill Cummings, my he's a Youper as well, old senor. He'd throw a dill pickle on there, and I was just like, really? He goes, oh yeah, you have to, and it works. Now I crave a dill pickle when I have that.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Chad, I'm dropping my hat here. I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast.
No problem. This was fun.
It's been a really great chat. So, again, thank you. This has been awesome. Okay, it's time for the takeaways from my chat with Chad. The first is about having vision. Chad and the entire Dickinson Trail Network crew have a vision for what a robust trail network can do for this community. And they're able to see the connectivity between the downtown area and outdoor recreation and tourism in general. Now, it's one thing to have a vision or a dream, but it's a completely different thing to actually act on it. And Chad and the DTN have hit the ground running, they've rolled up their sleeves, and they're actually getting out and doing it. And really, this kind of leads to my second takeaway, which is finding something that allows you to make your mark on the world. When Chad got to college, he knew he wanted to be involved with something that would have a lasting impression. And being able to be Sparty ended up changing his life in the process. Now, obviously we all can't be a mascot for our favorite school or team, but I truly believe that we can all find a way to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. Maybe it's getting involved in the Dickinson Trail Network, or maybe it's another local club or organization, or maybe you have a vision of something new that no one's ever thought of that could be totally great. Whatever it is, my challenge for everyone listening this week is to pursue leaving a positive mark on your community. Because not only will you be better in the long run, but so will all of the wonderful places that we call home. Chat It Up is a bi-weekly podcast about all things Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Wherever you're listening in, please subscribe, rate, and leave me a review. You can also find Chat It Up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for listening in. I'm your host, Shooter, reminding you to keep your chin up and your eyes forward.